So, one of the things people always ask or talk to me about is how do I get my kayak down by myself? Because a Slayer's an 80-pound kayak. Get on top of a roof and it's a hassle. So what I use is a standard bath mat. Any store you can buy that at. Once you get everything unbuttoned and it's ready to come off, all we're going to do is slide this over. I got a coffee back there, I don't want it up too late. Get it at an angle, make sure it's sitting on the old bath mat. Just kind of wobbling it to get it off that other pad, and then just let it slide all the way down. Rest it right there, and then I can grab the tail fin, lift up, and literally just walk it right off the top. Ease her down and then put it back, just reverse, lift it up, put the tail on, set it down, grab the nose, and just slide it right back up. Simple as that. I had a few questions on how I set everything up. It'll go quicker than normal because I've already laid everything out, but basically once I offload my kayak and I start pulling everything out of the car, first thing that goes in is the battery. So my battery goes in here, just to show you how this all works. I'm using a Hobie, I don't know if you can see any of that if I'm pointing the right way. I'm using a Hobie through hole connector. So that goes in there. This is my power cord to the fish finder. A battery box sits in here. I got a 2-pin connector on it. Just drop it in there and then close it all back up. So that's the only thing I have in the hole, and I don't even drill through the hole, just the cover, which this is replaceable, so I don't have to have any holes in the kayak, minus a big one I got in the back, but we'll talk about that later. Alright, starting in the front. So I got my rail mounts up here. If you remember from a previous video, I used to have this all insulated and it started getting cut up from fish and just kind of stinky, so I ripped it out. Drastic difference on ice. So I buy that 10-pound block of ice. Before, when it was insulated, it would stay frozen all day long, no issues. Now without insulation, it melts in one day. So I am going to have to put something back in here. I just don't know what I'm going to do yet, if I'm going to just do the same thing and replace it, but we'll figure that out. Bungees come stock. On the outside near the front, I've got my anchor line set up. I don't even use it other than a rudder lock. So what I'll do is, if I'm kind of going one way, I'll use this and I'll lock my rudder with it, and I can slowly pedal and just kind of counter steer current, but it only works if I need to go one way. So if I'm getting blown the other way, then I kind of have to just hold that one. But from there, so I got my battery installed. The next thing that goes in is my pedals. So the pedals will sit in the groove that comes molded into the kayak. This is actually where my transducer is also mounted, so my transducer is here. I have it under. I have no issues with my prop, obviously, and it doesn't give me any interference on the fish finder as well. Just came up, wound it up nice and tight, couple zip ties, same thing, wound up nice and tight, couple zip ties all the way through here, then just my slack. This right here is where my fish finder sits, which is right here. So fish finder sits here, like so, just like that, and both my power cable and transducer cable will plug into the back. So that's where that sits. The only thing you gotta keep note if you do a setup like this is just your pedals will hit when they're up in the stowed position. So just be mindful of that, but other than that, they're fine. Moving down to the outside, so on my side rails, I've got on each side, I've got one of these Scotty adapters with a cleat and a tether, and that's where I set up my rocket launcher pole holders. So just these bad boys right here, they pop in on both sides, and all I do is if I'm going to troll, I can just unhook my tether, hook it to there, and when it's not in use, I can just stow it. And it's a little bit easier than keeping tethers on your fishing poles because they're getting tangled as I move them around. This way the tether stays in place. Somebody's having a grand old time. And then lock in your drive like so. I do not, so all that happens here is we'll take the cover off, the cover pops out, pedals drop down. I'll just go ahead and show you. I got it elevated so it's alright. Do this on the water and it'll drop down in the water just like that. Now this lock here, I actually don't use it for one reason, because I do fish in the reef a lot. As you can see, I need about 2 feet of clearance just to be safe from underneath the kayak. So in the event I do ever hit a high coral head, if this is locked, it's going to jar the whole kayak. But with it unlocked and I hit something underneath, all it'll do is it'll lift my pedals, which is a little bit safer than having it locked down and possibly ripping one of these things out if I hit something hard enough, or even breaking the propeller itself. It's just kind of a fast release. If I hit, it'll pop up. So that's why I do that. Just me though. Same thing here. These on the side, so these are my paddle clips, which I can't even remember who makes them. I think they're Scotty or Ram. It doesn't say on them, but it sits on the outside, just like that, and then this will be attached to my seat bungee just for safety. So aside from the two times I use the paddle, which is when I paddle offshore and I paddle inshore, that thing stays there the entire day and I never use them, hopefully, as long as my pedals don't break. Next thing is my seat. So these are the seat rails with the little locking nut on the inside. Used to have a big problem with these because tying the kayak down, it would, being hot and cold on top of the car, the kayak would actually kind of warp a little bit, and then getting your seat to line up on these rails was really a pain. But a shout out to Greg Massa on Facebook, who makes some 3D printed seat risers. These things right here, they add about 3 inches, which is a game changer, at least something for my height for sure. All they do is you just swing them in place, sit them down in the kayak, and then these actually give enough play side to side that it's quite easy to hit them. So now it takes me almost no effort to get my kayak in place. So or my seat in place, and that's phenomenal, because it's actually quite a pain to do early in the mornings when you have no light. On my seat I have a under-seat tackle organizer, which is where I keep my pliers on the tether. I keep my fish grips on a tether, which I can still reach all the way to the front, so that's good. And it's also got 2 tackle storage pods underneath, but only this one, which is my squid jigs that I keep in there. My other one is empty at the moment. On my seat I also have, this is just a standard dollar store soap dish that I cut the magnet out of it and use the front side, and it's just kind of a quick storage tray. So I throw a lot of stuff here in this tray, but sometimes if I'm eating snacks or just want to change lures quick, I'll drop things right here on my side, and it's just kind of handy. So it doesn't get in the way, and it's just some extra stuff. In the back I also have a back seat storage, which this is where I keep all my big jigs. So I've got all my jigs there and another one on the other side. I got all my fasteners, my swivels and things like that. Split rings, solid rings are all in there, and then of course some safety stuff, some sunscreen. So that's all on my seat, everything I use there. Moving into the back. So this hatch I don't really use much. The only thing I keep in there is I have inside of a couple bags to stay dry is my safety kit, my medical kit. I've actually had to use it like twice from Band-Aids, so it's nice just to always have that with you. These rod holders, I actually don't really use them only because of the way they face. They're factory installed and they face backward, which I keep a crate here with all my other stuff and it hits. If these were turned and they faced outboard, I would definitely use these, but as it is now, I do not. This is my landing gear, which I recommend to anybody who gets a native kayak. You want to get landing gear. Phenomenal, right? I've never had any issues with it. I keep them right. I literally line up the landing gear to the very edge of the rail, so the little stopper actually sticks out a little bit, but it's okay. And it's solid. Like, I lift my kayak with that. I just have my tires off of it right now. They're on the bottom. I got the sand tires, and all I do is slide in. You wheel it straight into the water. I'll stand about thigh high in the water with them. All you do is slide them out just till they come out, and then put them right back in, and they'll sit on the kayak all day long, so I don't have to go back and forth with it. Once I load up, I go to the water and I get in. I don't go back to the car. But because I got it on stands right now, they're off. On that landing gear, you've got rail mounts. So what I have is a pair of just kind of native paddle clips, but I actually use them for my net. So my net, I got just a standard little easy tether on it, no big deal. Also clip that to my bungee seat. Because the diameter of the pole is smaller, I wrapped 550 cord around the top. All I do is just pop it in right there, and it won't go anywhere. It stays in place. And you know, you will get some water drag. If it really bothers you, you can just kind of pop the net up the other way and it won't hit. But it allows me to just turn around, reach behind me, pull this out, net, and then I can store it and it not be in the way. It's easy to do when you're on the kayak. My tools out of here. Alright, so after that, next thing I go into is the crate, which my crate I ordered off Amazon. It is a little bit longer than your standard crate. And it's going to sit in there just like that. So all I do is I use the first strap. I go over there to hold it in place. And then pull all these up so I can see which one is which. Alright, so that's how it sits. This is a $20 little cooler. It still has some drinks in it. It's perfect in my crate. I got some storage for, you know, a couple sinkers I got in there. Sometimes you throw your keys or something in there. It locks down and it'll stay closed. Here's all my quick accessible tackle, my vibe jigs, some light jigs, some live bait rigs, and some soft plastics and stuff I carry, as well as my leader and fluoro. And you can see some other jigs I use a lot. And then replacement trebles, because I break those all the time. So all this stays here. It's in waterproof cases. No issues with any of that. And I still have an ample amount of room back here. Sometimes when I know I'm going to do live bait, what I'll do is I got your normal little live bait well, and it'll sit. I'll pull this back and it'll sit bungeed right in here, and then I'll use the string and tie it up there, and I can reach back and reach to the top, and I just kind of throw it, drop it to the side, then I'll use the rope to pull it forward to me. But other than that, the only other two things I always make sure you have is your flag. You know, got to support the Yakinawa. We designed that. That's my crew. And then my sea stinger, just in case I get something that's a little bigger than the net. And that is the only thing I put back there. And that's it. That is, in a nutshell, my setup. If there's any questions or anything you want to know, please just ask and I'll be quick to respond. Thanks.